Without further ado, let's welcome the king of Connecticut himself, Mr. Matthew Granahan, author, MMA expert, wrestler, coach, teacher. The man's done it all. Tremendously respected gentleman here, also fight manager. And Matthew, welcome to the show, but you are sideways again. So if you can turn, I think, just 90 degrees, that should probably do it, because you're sitting. No, you're still sideways. You're still completely sideways. Let me see. Okay, now you're upside down. So you went one direction, but it was the wrong one. Let's see. And now sideways again. So one more rotation, and I think we should have it.
There's a way to rotate it, unless I go like this. And then
I think that's good, but then we just got to get you in front of the camera.
No, that's a straight up. That's not going to sit, guys.
Right.
That's not going to fly, man. I can see myself perfectly.
Okay.
Hold on. Is that good?
No, you're still sideways. Adam, can you tell him? Can you tell him anything, Adam?
He's got his camera set in one area, so when he's flipping it.
Matthew, I think we got it. All we got to do is get you more centered in front of the camera.
That's not going to work unless I rest it on something. Hold on.
No problem.
No, because that's going straight up to the ceiling, guys. That's not going to fly. Because that's a straight up view, and that is not going. The way that I have this stand set up, hold on a second, I might be able to do something.
All right, let's see what happens, because it's looking pretty good here, even though it looks like you're struggling with it. Yeah, this looks good. Yeah, fabulous. We got it. Matthew Granahan, so glad to have you here. And we always have a lot of great conversation, ladies and gentlemen, but we're bringing Matthew Granahan on to be a little bit serious here. But serious and interesting is always what he'll be. So, I know you have a good feeling about our last guest, Sal Franciosa, if you want to shout that out, and then we can get on to you telling us a little bit about our guest later in the show and your client, Mr. Devon Hannibal Nicholson. But go ahead and say something about Sal if you want, and then let's go into telling us about Devon Hannibal Nicholson.
Well, Sal is a great friend, and I was happy to connect him with you guys. He's a fun guy. He's a great chef, great movie maker, and I enjoy going down to his beach house in St. Pete lately and chasing the women around. He's a fun dude, Mr. Salvatore. But I am here to talk about my new client, Mr. Devon Hannibal Nicholson, the death dealer. And guys, I know there's a lot of MMA promotions that listen to this show, and I want to make this crystal clear to you guys.
Oh no,
Matthew
is the host.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hannibal TV. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. We had a little interruption there with your Skype, but continue on. He is the host of.
Said I want to make it very clear, crystal clear to any promoters that are listening. He is the host of Hannibal TV, which reaches a massive audience. They have over 50 million views on their YouTube channel alone, over 75,000 subscribers, and they're loyal subscribers to the Death Dealer. And that's something I want to communicate to the promoters before I talk specifically about Hannibal, because I know, having worked as a broadcaster in the MMA world for a number of promotions, that it's all about the pay-per-view. There's only so many people you can fit into your small venue. And Hannibal has a loyal fan base and a loyal following that will purchase his pay-per-view. And we're looking at Rico Rodriguez. That's the guy that we'd love to get him in the cage with, because Devon's, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you familiarize yourself with the Death Dealer, having him on the show. He's a Canadian National Freestyle Wrestling champion, a Canadian Open champion, a silver medalist in Greco, a Canadian Open grappling champion, and competitive as well in kickboxing. And he's known, moreover, for his professional wrestling career. I call him the Canadian Kurt Angle. And he was awarded a WWE contract If you haven't seen the documentary that he was featured in called Don't Bleed on Me, where it talked about how he got hepatitis from that duel with a butcher, he's 100% clear of that. He's clear to fight. And he is money to any of you fight promoters that want to book the Death Dealer on your show.
Absolutely, and a heavyweight too, which MMA organizations are always in need of really good heavyweights with wrestling pedigrees, because they're
he's a real heavyweight. He's a real heavyweight, and you have to be a real heavyweight to compete at that level and heavyweight as a wrestler. He's a 6'4", 250 to 265 pound man, and any of the guys that have trained with him will tell you he is a terror on the mat. But most importantly, he can bring the draw. He can bring the fans to your pay-per-view that these other local fighters absolutely cannot. He has got a massive, loyal fan base, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one thing that I think some of our fans and friends of the show might not know. But when you're in the UFC, they're not worried about you selling tickets. But when you're not, they really are wanting to see who has a social media following that will come and support them. So in reality, the average guy or girl may have 20 or 50 people that may come supporting if you as a promoter put them on your fight card. Hannibal here has thousands of people that will come and buy tickets if you put him on your show, and he's an amazing athlete, and I think has the makings of a really good MMA fighter. So without a doubt, I think he would be a great pick. And what's the timeline, Matthew, here as far as how soon he's looking for a fight? ASAP, or is he wanting something after the summer? And and he's thinking of kind of jumping into this right away as a pro, and there's no amateur MMA background, or is there some amateur MMA background, or is that what he's wanting to jump in now? Give us some more information about what.
Absolutely not. With Devon's background as an Olympic caliber wrestler, as a national champion grappler, absolutely he's going to come in as a pro, and with the notoriety and the name that he brings, he's absolutely going to come in as a pro, and it should be against an opponent the likes of Rico Rodriguez. We've scouted Rico, and we feel he's a great opponent. Rico just fought for my friend Nate Shook's bare knuckle boxing fight. He was main evented. He's out there, he's on the scene, and he's a name. And Devon will draw the fans, and he should fight a name. And it's a similar analogy to Brock Lesnar. The UFC, when they do their typical pay-per-view, a lot of times they don't even draw 200,000 buys on a pay-per-view these days. With Brock Lesnar, traditionally, they get around 1 million buys. That's 5 times that. And that's the kind of draw that Hannibal, the Death Dealer, is going to bring to the table for any promotion that is wise enough to book him.
Makes sense. Now, what about the fact that you could look at him as being the next guy for your friend, and Nate Shook can get everything all shook up by putting Hannibal in the bare knuckles fight? But that's only boxing.
Doesn't make any sense.
No,
doesn't make any sense. Devon is a wrestler. He's a grappler. Yeah. His striking is coming along, but no, that wouldn't be in the game. And in Devon's prime to go into MMA. His skill set, his background, his drawing power is ideal for MMA.
That makes sense. I agree. So you don't need to get him shook up that way. Not to rip on Nate Shook, but I'm definitely a believer that bare knuckles looks like a great promotion. Nate Shook has done a great job on that first event, and a lot of people anticipating the second event. But yeah, I'd love to see Devon.
And Phil Baroni is going to be fighting for their competitive organization. Got him a really good payday for that. He's going to be competing for them. And Nate actually contacted me, and he said, good for Phil, because he got the number he was looking for from those guys. These new guys stepped up. It's also going to be in Wyoming, so stay tuned to that for the New York Badass Phil Baroni. But Sal, I want your listeners, I want your fans to meet the Death Dealer.
Yes.
Devon Hannibal Nicholson. I know that for your female fans, when they get a look at me, especially in my suit, it's hard for you to send me away for the evening. But tonight, this is about Devon. This isn't about me.
Yes.
This isn't about the King of Connecticut. This isn't about the man that's too handsome for Hollywood. This is about Devon Hannibal Nicholson.
Absolutely, and we're going to bring him on. You just called me Sal, but that's all right. We just had Sal on the show. It's okay.
You know why? I'll tell you why. The screen at the bottom here is blowing up with Sal writing me.
Yes.
I guess it's a group message with me and you.
There we go.
I guess thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, he did. We had a great interview with Sal. Really appreciated having him on, and that's no problem, definitely. Well, Matthew, I appreciate you jumping on. We are going to jump right into the next 2 minutes with Devon Hannibal Nicholson. Appreciate the setup. Really look forward to talking to him. Matthew will be in close touch. Really appreciate you coming on the show again, my friend.
Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. Have a great evening.
Thanks. You too. And, ladies and gentlemen, that was the King of Connecticut, Mr. Matthew Granahan. This is the doctor, Dr. Adam Rorta, roaring his way back in. He's back. Doctor, you've been doing all kinds of figurative and literal surgery over the last couple months, and, I hear that's going pretty well.
No, I don't know about the literal surgery other than on this production equipment here.
There we go, right. But a lot of figurative surgery.
No scalpels going into anybody's tissue.
No need for that, no. But, Doctor, man, we've got a great rest of the show coming up here. We're going to recap some UFC. We do want to bring in Devon Hannibal Nicholson, though, here with a phone call. So why don't I do that? And you and me can do some recapping maybe in between that interview and the next one. Let me make sure that we're getting the call time right here. We hate to call anyone early. So let me see what we have here. And let me see about the call time that we had. And as I look over here on my phone, okay.
This is what you guys get with a live show with us, is you get this in between. Now, we are actually going to be putting out a podcast this next week, and it will be a little more formatted so that you don't hear all this in-between stuff where people are normally taking commercial breaks.
Right.
But want to let you all know that we will be putting out a regular podcast, which will be each interview separated. So if you can't catch the show live on Facebook, you'll be able to download on iTunes each episode, each interview that we have with every guest. So that is some exciting news for you guys. Thanks for your guys' support. Give us all the likes, shares, and comments you can. We appreciate it a lot, but that's what's really making it so that we can push stuff along here, and we can't be doing it without your guys' help. The more you do that, the better off the show is, the better our guests get, and no offense to any of the other guests. We've had some of the most amazing guests ever. I can't even say the better they get, but the more frequent and the more exciting our show can be with production. I just feel even bringing these old guests on, they're going to be better guests, just being excited about coming on and being a part of the stronger production with every single episode we're evolving. And I cannot say thank you enough, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Really want to thank you guys and girls for your support. It means a lot, and we really are working on stepping up the game, and I think we will be doing that very, very shortly with Dr. Adam Rorta and myself putting our heads together and resources, and we're going to make some really big changes here before 2018 is out, make it a lot more fun, have that studio we've been talking about, and having a lot more in-person and in-studio guests, actually. So we are looking at our next guest here, and I think he might need a few minutes. Let's give him a couple more minutes. So let's recap Dr. Adam Rorta. This last UFC, some people are saying the worst UFC ever. I don't know about that, but I will say the DC versus Stipe fight was fun. I think a lot of us thought it was going to go longer. I know I did. A lot of us would have liked to have seen it go longer and seen some more back and forth. But it was DC's night. Both are nice guys, but great for DC after having to deal with losing to John Jones and all the criticism he had for crying on TV, even though it was probably one of the worst moments of his life. And then on top of that, John Jones test dirty, which is also now being disputed. But anyway, the bottom line is big win for for DC, and one of these rare occasions where the older, shorter, fatter guy wins a fight at a very high level. Gotta love that. Not that I'm totally an older, shorter, fatter guy, but compared to several people, I am. So yay for DC.
Yay for DC.
Yeah.
And you know what? What do you think of the setup after his win?
The setup, yes, Brock Lesnar, where Brock came in there in a suit and shoved DC. Anyway, but our next guest will be ready in a minute. So that was interesting. We'll talk more about that. But then Ngannou against Lewis, that was terrible. Other fights were pretty interesting. Felder against Mike Platinum Perry was a very good fight. I'm drawing a blank on some of the other ones, but there were some definitely good fights that happened there, and we'll recap them. Roundtree, yes, against Gokhan Saki. It's funny, Saki was favorite. I knew Roundtree was going to be tough. Yeah, I knew Roundtree was going to be tough. You didn't think he was going to beat Saki with a punch, but I think sometimes the better strikers are so sure that a guy who's not primarily a striker is going to be able to not do anything against them, and that overconfidence, that hubris, as it were, can sometimes lead to them getting caught. And I think what it shows is that even though you are not a world-class striker, if you hit with proper technique and you hit hard, you can stop a world-class striker, which is what Khalil Roundtree did. Very exciting guy. At 205, Khalil Roundtree is right in the mix. Saki will probably be back, although you never know. Anyway, let's get on to our next guest here, and let's bring on, with the telephone call, Devon Hannibal Nicholson. So this is going to be a phone call. So Dr. Adam Rorta, let's see where I can put this here. Let's where will I put this so that we can
I'll put it there. Just go ahead and give him a call and make sure it's on speaker.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Devon, how you doing? It's Colin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, we got you on speaker here. We're going to place this near a microphone so the audience can hear, and I think we're about there. Excellent. So I want to give you a great intro here. Matthew Granahan has already given you a great intro. You are a prolific collegiate wrestler in Canada, Olympic level, Greco, an amazing professional wrestler, podcast host, athlete, and personality. So happy to have on the show Mr. Devon Hannibal Nicholson. Welcome to the show. And you want me to call you Devon or Hannibal?
You can call me Hannibal.
Sounds good. Like Hannibal the Cannibal, but not quite, right?
Yes, you're breaking up a bit, but yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more clear. I think the speaker on my phone's having some problems, but I'll speak up. But Devon, I'm really excited to have you on, and I think we're doing a simulcast here. You're broadcasting on your show as well, this interview, right?
Yes, I am going to post it tomorrow. I believe you're going to send me the video, so it'll be up for my viewers. I have a YouTube channel called Hannibal TV. Has over 44 million total views, 75,000 subscribers, wow. And we do professional wrestling and MMA interviews. On that channel, we've interviewed guys like Ken Shamrock, Dan Severin, Roy Nelson, Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner. So the list goes on, and we post new videos on there every day.
I like that. Well, I've heard a lot of great things about Hannibal TV, man. And I'm really excited to be being shared on that as well, and to have you as part of our show. So Matthew Granahan pointed out that you're known as the Canadian Kurt Angle. And that is a really great thing. I'm sure you're flattered by that comparison, or do you not like Kurt Angle?
Well, as far as a professional wrestler in Canada with an amateur wrestling background, I don't think anyone comes close to me.
Nice.
Not even by a long shot. So that's an accurate description for that reasoning. But I don't think my wrestling character is like Kurt Angle, but we definitely have the same intensity.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to hear that you are wanting to get into MMA. I mean, I think people are going to be very excited with your level of skill. Also, as a heavyweight, as technical as you are, we know that at the heavyweight division, wrestlers are doing really, really well. And with the social media following you have, man, it's all good. Have you been thinking for quite a while about fighting MMA? Was this something that was on the back burner for several years, or is this a recent thought? And what's made you decide to jump on and pursue that?
I've been debating it for several years, and I started training in kickboxing back in January, and that would stand-up is my weak point because I've obviously have an amateur wrestling background. I'm former national champion and Olympic trial silver medalist, but I also have a grappling background. I've won grappling tournaments. I've won the Canadian Open, my provincial championships in both the heavyweight and absolute division. So stand-up has been my weak point, but I've been dedicating myself to kickboxing, and I'm improving. And had one exhibition match back in June. I have another one at the end of August. And what motivated me to say that now I actually want to have an MMA fight, maybe later this year or early next year, if it can be arranged, is just the horrible performance of CM Punk in UFC makes wrestlers look kind of pathetic in some ways. So that's one reason, and the other is I'm just not interested in professional wrestling anymore. I'll still do the interviews because I'm interested in the past years and the guys I grew up idolizing. But the current product, I couldn't even sit through a minute of it, whereas I am a UFC fan, a Bellator fan, and a kickboxing fan. So I just have more of a love for MMA now, and I believe I'm in my physical prime, and I could probably compete in MMA for at least 3 to 5 years. So that's what I'm going to dedicate myself to. I've already started dedicating myself to it.
I like that, and I think you would be a very exciting addition to the landscape of heavyweight MMA. And because of your amateur background, we're not worrying about an amateur fight, which probably no one would take the fight anyway. And we're looking at going pro directly, right?
Yes, I'm definitely looking at going pro directly. I mean, I'll continue to have amateur kickboxing matches, but I don't want to really have an amateur MMA fight, no, because if I'm going to dedicate myself to it and really put the time and effort into it, I want to have a pro fight.
Makes
That's
sense.
What's going to motivate me to fight, and I believe I can handle a professional fight.
Absolutely. What weight do you think you would come in? Do you think you would have a trouble making 265, or what do you usually walk around at, and what do you think you'd fight at for your pro
I was
MMA?
walking around and wrestling between 275 and 285 most of my career, but now with the kickboxing training I've been doing, I'm about 260, between 255 and 260. Depending on the day right now, so I think I'd be fighting around 250, 255 at a fighting weight if I'm doing a training camp of at least 2 or 3 practices a day.
Sounds good, and that would be perfect, so you wouldn't really have to be draining or dehydrating yourself to make that 265 limit. You could fight at full strength, it sounds like.
No, and I definitely also believe that I'm more agile around the 250, 255 mark than I am heavier, cutting down to 265, and we've seen it time and time again in MMA. Bigger does not always mean you have a better chance. It's all about cardio and definitely technique and toughness. So I definitely believe that me being more mobile will be an advantage to me rather than having strength, because I'm still very strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to get your opinion on the most prominent heavyweight MMA fighters. Stipe Miocic against Daniel Cormier. What was your prediction on how that fight was going to go down? And what do you think about how it went down? And from all the experience you have as a high-level grappler who is now training for MMA, I'd love to hear your analysis of what you saw as someone much more experienced than the average fan in combat sports and wrestling.
I actually actually only saw the highlights, but I knew Daniel Cormier would win because he was the better wrestler. I was aware he was a better wrestler from talking to people, and also I did an interview with Forrest Griffin a couple months ago in Las Vegas where he gave me the tour of the UFC Performance Institute, and while I was talking to him, he told me his prediction, and he actually told me he thought it was going to be Cormier against Lesnar, and that Lesnar would probably have a very difficult time with Cormier because Cormier can beat Cain Velasquez as they train together. And he said the way that Velasquez mopped the floor with Brock the last time, he doesn't seem to think that Brock will do better against Cormier since Cormier can beat Velasquez in practice.
Yeah, I would think so as well. I would think Brock definitely has issues in that fight. They say that Brock is getting already into the USADA testing pool, so we may see Brock showing up without any banned substances in his body. Do you think that at that level makes a difference? This is an interesting question, and not asking your personal background with steroids, although I know in professional wrestling for the healing and recovery from the devastating injuries, most people kind of have to do it. But not talking about you personally, but a Brock Lesnar that can take whatever he wants, as opposed to a Brock Lesnar that can't have anything illegal in his system. How much of a difference does that make in the Brock Lesnar that we would see?
100% make a difference, especially Lesnar. I believe he's 41 now, or 40.
Right.
So as you mentioned, the recovery is the big thing. It might not necessarily, it'll make you stronger. Your heart rate might be faster in a match, so it might not help your cardio depending on what you're taking. I'm sure Lesnar's an expert in that, but I think it's going to definitely affect his recovery ability if he's going to be off for a while.
Yeah. Because
he's an older guy and his body's been through a lot. I believe he's had a serious motorcycle accident. He's had a disease that he needed surgery for, and a whole bunch of his intestines removed.
Yeah.
And he's been wrestling for a number of years, and that takes a lot of punishment to your body. Plus, he's been training in MMA for years too, so it might affect his recovery.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll be tough against DC. What did you think about the second fight on that card, that snoozer with Ngannou and Derek Lewis? Did you watch that fight?
I haven't. I didn't, unfortunately, get to see the pay-per-view, so unfortunately, I can't really comment on it. Obviously, it wasn't a pay-per-view I was that much interested in.
Right.
But I was, of course, a little interested to see the DC match, but I'm sure I'll watch it when it comes up on the internet.
For sure. And now, with your professional wrestling history, although it's something you're purposely wanting to get out of, but does that mean that when you jump into MMA, should we be expecting any personal wrestling flair like Brock brings to it? Or are you feeling like you're not even going to want to bring anything like that into your MMA career?
I'm not going to be like a CM Punk who seems to have lost all of his ability to be interesting or entertaining.
Right.
Because not only was he a terrible fighter, but like his entertainment value was horrible, and his match was actually pathetic. I tried to watch it, but I felt so embarrassed for him.
Yeah.
I actually couldn't continue watching it. Sometime after he did that spin kick, I had to turn it off. But I will definitely, I'm an intense person. I don't think I'm afraid of really anybody. So I could see that I'll be an interesting fighter to watch. I've always amateur wrestled very intensely. I don't back down. I train very hard. So I definitely think I would be an exciting fighter to watch. I think that will be my only, not my only issue, but one of my main issues is some of my problems in amateur wrestling have arisen when I'm not patient sometimes, and I want to go for the exciting move, and it might not be a wise decision for someone who knows how to just get a point here and there and play it very carefully, and by taking a risk sometimes I lost a couple points even though I was never even come close to pinned in any competition. But yeah, I think I will be exciting, and that's one thing I'm going to have to work on. I'll have it controlled by that time, but I'll try and work on, like, not just trying to have the most exciting fight, protecting myself and making sure I fight smart as well.
I like that. Are there any legendary fighters, whether they're active or retired, that you looked up to in MMA over the last decade or two?
Oh, Dan Severn for sure, and I've actually had a professional wrestling match against him, and that was an honor. He is amazing to me for the number of fights that he's had. It's got to be some type of record. It's over 120 for sure, possibly 130.
Yep.
But this guy would take any fight. He wouldn't even bring a coach or a corner man half the time, and he still walks around pretty well for a guy that's been a wrestler and a fighter for as long as he has, and an amateur wrestler all his life.
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of respect for him for the career that he's had. And George St. Pierre, of course, I amateur wrestled most recently leading up to those Olympic trials for the London Games. I was training at TriStar in their amateur wrestling program there. But I also trained at the Montreal Wrestling Club, where George St. Pierre was training, and I just have so much respect for him, and he's a great guy.
Absolutely.
And while I was training at TriStar, I actually got to grapple and amateur wrestle a little bit with Rory McDonald and Alex Garcia, who have had UFC fights. So
absolutely,
I'm looking forward to jumping into that side of it more and taking a break from pro wrestling.
Excellent. And do you think TriStar is where you would be training, or do you have a few places in mind?
Possibly for my first fight, but I believe that if I got a bigger fight, I really think Greg Jackson's camp would probably be the best for me if they would take me. That's where I would try and train, because they have a lot of heavyweights there, and I like New Mexico. I've been there before, and it's hard to run in the winter. I do it, but to train outdoors in the winter, it's difficult and it's dangerous slipping on ice and stuff. So I like the climate of New Mexico as well.
Absolutely. I'm from Michigan.
I would live there. I know he has dorms as well. That's the last thing. I've seen the tour of the place online.
And we're on very good terms with them. I was saying I'm from Michigan, so I can relate to the ice and slipping training in the winter. It's not good. But yeah, New Mexico, you don't have that. We're on really good terms with Jackson Wink, so I can definitely put a good bug in their ear and see if they might be wanting to talk to you and Matthew Granahan to make that happen, because they're a great school, and they're getting some more really good people in there, and I think that would be a great fit for you, especially since you enjoy being there. So I'll put a bug in their ear and see if we can make that happen with yourself and your manager Matthew Granahan.
And I think Arlovsky and Overeem are still training there too, so you couldn't ask for better sparring partners. Yeah,
for sure. I know that Overeem is, possibly Arlovsky, although I think he's gone a couple different places, but he still might be there. They've got some very good people. They've got the Polish guy, his name escapes me, but top 10 heavyweight that had that really good fight with Fabricio Verdum, and Derek Lewis, and some other very good heavyweights. Chase Sherman is over there, and some good big strong guys. So absolutely, that would be great. And what's your hometown? What would be a hometown fight for you?
Well, my hometown fight, I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, but really I'm pretty well known in Canada, so almost anywhere in Canada. But I would consider, if I were to have a hometown fight, it would be in Montreal, just because that's my favorite city in Canada. It's only an hour and a half from where I live, and when I train in Montreal, I'll be training at TriStar.
Excellent.
So
and
that's where I would consider my home fight would be the Bell Center.
Excellent. And you have George with the UFC, but you have Rory now, who's the Bellator champion. So I think
Yes, and I believe he doesn't train there anymore. He's gone to British Columbia, back where I think he's from, and he kind of has his own training camp there, from what I understand.
Gotcha.
But I never got the opportunity to train with George or spar with him, because he's so well protected. They don't want him getting hurt.
Right.
And I'm a big heavyweight.
Yeah.
At that time, I was closer to 270. They weren't going to risk that.
Yeah, it makes sense. A lot of people don't think about that, and it's not that George St. Pierre is afraid to train with a heavyweight, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, because in the grappling, having that much heavier kind of nullifies technique, and the lighter person can get injured. And then also in striking.
And it's not him saying no; it's whoever arranges his training.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I'm sure you can respect that. You know, for a guy George's size, why would he train with a heavyweight?
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm excited about you jumping in and getting a fight happening, man. And you have a great guy with Matthew Granahan working for you as your manager. I have a feeling he will arrange something. I'll put a good bug in the ear over at Jackson Wink. We've had Coach Wink on the show, and we've had their director of press relations and their general manager on a couple times and stay in close touch with them. So I'll mention that, and hopefully we can make that happen, man. I'd be excited to see you fight, and I think you're going to bring a lot to it. Would you have any?
And I'll take it seriously. I don't like losing, and I have a lot of respect for mixed martial arts, and I don't take it as a joke.
Nice.
And I wouldn't half-ass it. I'm going to dedicate myself totally, and try and make a name for myself in that, if that's what I go into.
I like that, and then you have a lot of people following you with the Hannibal TV, so I think that's one really good thing.
It's growing every day, by the way. I only started it 4 years ago. I don't have any background in video editing. It happened by accident. I had a wrestling company. I was putting up matches, and I started putting up interview clips, and the interview clips just started getting huge hits. So then I've dedicated myself more to the interview side of things. So it's very impressive. So that's the Hannibal TV on YouTube. It's getting like thousands of new subscribers a month, and I think it's going to keep growing. And I think there's going to be more MMA fans subscribing to it in the coming years as I continue to get more and more MMA interviews. Carlos Newton's another guy we just talked to, and there's a guy I might drive up to Toronto and roll with a little bit once we get a real fight scheduled.
Absolutely. Who are some of the better Canadian MMA heavyweights? I'm not thinking of any now. Have there been some? And if so, who?
It's pretty wide open. It's pretty wide open. No one stands out to me. So that's for sure. If UFC, like, obviously I'm going to have a couple fights under my belt, but a heavyweight in Canada could definitely draw for them.
I would really think so. I really would.
One that can put on a bit of a show and be entertaining at press conferences and
so
forth.
Because they call you what? The death? What was it? I forgot. The death something.
Dealer.
Death dealer. I like that. How long have you had that nickname, and how did that come about?
That was given to me by former WWE champion and WWE Hall of Famer, superstar Billy Graham.
Awesome.
He just thought that the name fit me well, and it was the name of a painting that he really loved. So he suggested I go by that. And I've also been a bouncer since 2001, off and on, so I was telling Billy about a lot of the street fights I had, so I think that's where he partly got the name from as well.
Yeah, he was an amazing guy. Superstar Billy Graham, going back in the days, was like a combination, the way he looked, like a combination of Jesse the Body Ventura and Hulk Hogan, but just tougher. He was a big, rugged guy.
That's why it looks like him, because they both copied him.
That's right. Yeah, I just realized that, because he was around starting in the late 1960s or early mid-70s, wasn't he?
Yeah. And they were both huge fans of his, and they've admitted it in their books that they basically stole a lot of his gimmick, and unfortunately Billy just came along too soon. Yeah. And it was before like wrestling really exploded and all these TV contracts that aired nationally. So a few years later, Hogan and Jesse came along, and Jesse ended up becoming governor, and Hogan was one of the most successful wrestlers of all time until The Rock decided to come along and put him to shame.
Yep, absolutely. Now, let me ask you, in your MMA training, you're doing some kickboxing, you've got the wrestling down. How about the jiu-jitsu? Even though, you know what's funny, in so many heavyweight fights, unless Fabricio Verdum is in them, we're not seeing a lot of jiu-jitsu. So answer two questions for me. How are you liking your jiu-jitsu? Do you feel comfortable with it? Are you doing anything with it? And B, how come we almost never see jiu-jitsu at the heavyweight level, and will that change, and why aren't we seeing it, do you think?
My jiu-jitsu, as I said, I've done well in the tournaments I've done. They've always been no-gi tournaments, though. I don't like training in the gi, although I am doing some gi training now just because I've been advised that it'd be a good idea. For my jiu-jitsu, there's moves, submission holds that I would say I know some catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu, no-gi grappling.
Nice.
There's numerous holds that I know very, very well. I'm certainly no expert, but the moves I know very well, and I have great body movement. I am kind of claustrophobic, so I don't like being put in holds, and no one is able to really keep me in holds very long. It's very, very rare that someone is able to tap me. So I think, as I said, I know some moves really well. I'll obviously expand that and keep working on learning all the proper escapes.
Right.
But I'm not overly concerned about submission fighting. I have good instincts for that.
Makes sense. And how about as far as conditioning? Not that every heavyweight has to have a shredded six-pack, but, you know, because Roy Nelson had a great career looking like he was 8 months pregnant. But are you a kind of guy who is like priding yourself on being a super cardio machine for a heavyweight, or is that something that's that you think is not that important, or what's your thought from what we've been watching lately?
It's important, and I'm definitely. That's one thing I'm working on every single day is my conditioning, and I'm going to be extremely well conditioned. So this is something, I'm in the best condition of my life right now. I'm in better condition than I was in amateur wrestling right now, but I'm taking it to a different level because depending on what type of fight it is, they can go sometimes 25 minutes, so that's an extreme amount of conditioning, and I want to be an exciting fighter, and I'm definitely intense. I don't like stalling or playing it safe, so
Good.
I plan on having very good conditioning.
Excellent. And do you have a preference whether you started out with Bellator or the UFC? I like both of them. Bellator, you can wear your own sponsors and possibly, in your situation with all the social media backing you have, possibly make more money. And there's also possibly a quicker line to the title. Whereas UFC, you're going to have to wear Reebok gear, and it may be a little bit of a slower process. Do you have a preference either way, or are both equally okay if either of those big shows picked you up?
The only thing that would make me want to go, the main thing that would make me want to go to UFC more is getting the tour of that performance center, and they told me that UFC fighters all have the opportunity to train there for periods of time, so that's obviously tempting. But either one, I wouldn't really care. For the points that you said about Bellator,
Right.
It definitely has good viewership too, and you might be able to get bigger money fights faster through Bellator.
Yep, and there's also professional.
So I haven't really thought that far out.
Makes
yet.
sense.
I just want to start fighting.
Makes sense. Do you know the fighter Ben Askren, Funky Ben Askren?
Yeah.
You think the UFC will ever put him in there? Just asking an opinion from an intelligent guy like yourself. He's one of the best wrestlers in the welterweight division. You think we'll ever see him in the UFC?
I'm not familiar enough with him to comment on it. I've heard of him. I've seen some clips, but I'm not sure. I couldn't comment on it. I don't know him well enough.
No
what
problem.
The situation is.
How about Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Dagestani wrestler and Sambo guy? You impressed with him?
If if it's not the heavyweight division, I'll be honest, I don't normally watch it.
I like it. That's an honest man. That's an honest man. So in heavyweight, we got DC, we got Stipe, Ngannou, and Derek Lewis. Anyone on your radar other than those guys, or are those guys on your radar only?
Well, as I said, I got to get some fights behind me before I could challenge those guys. I definitely think I could be a good challenger,
Right.
But you don't start at the very top.
Right.
You start with a reasonable opponent, and then you work your way up from there. As I said, I want to do this the right way.
Right.
So
makes sense.
Ngannou, for some reason, I really want to fight that guy.
Nice. That would be cool. I think you
don't
could
like him for some reason.
I hear you. I think you could do well. How about over in Bellator? We got Matt Mitrione against Ryan Bader, and then Fedor against Chael Sonnen. Any predictions on those matches coming up in the next couple months?
I think Mitrione and Chael.
Gotcha. So Mitrione beats Bader, Chael beats Fedor, and then who wins Mitrione and Chael?
I think Chael.
Interesting.
Because I talked to Roy Nelson, and he told me, and Roy Nelson I'd like to fight, by the way,
Nice.
even though I like him as a person.
Yep.
I think we could have a very good fight. But I think Chael, because just a lot of this stuff that Roy Nelson told me doesn't really impress me about Mitrione. I haven't seen too much of him. I've seen his main fights. And for Fedor, I don't know. His last fight went well, but he just hasn't been that impressive since coming to the States.
Yeah, he was
And
amazing
Chael
back in the
knows
day.
the importance of that fight, and he's in more of his prime.
Absolutely. It'd be amazing. Chael would be super excited to win that and be the Bellator heavyweight champion out of all the years.
Chael better.
Absolutely. He's a character. So in the last minute we have with you, Hannibal, let us know again where we can watch your show and follow you, and what the best way to hit you up on social media would be.
Well, the best way, I guess, I have a Facebook, Devon Hannibal Nicholson, Twitter, @Devon Hannibal, DEVON, HANNIBAL, The Hannibal TV on YouTube. That is what I would suggest everyone to subscribe to, especially if you're MMA fans. Go back and search MMA fighter shoot interviews, The Hannibal TV. A lot of them will pop up. And we're going to get more and more MMA fighters on, and we might post more of these shows on as well if I'm on again, or if they have a good guest that might be worth posting on the Hannibal TV. So I suggest everyone subscribe to that. My wrestling website is HannibalTV.com, and just look out for me in the next year or two. You're definitely going to hear a lot from me in MMA. Very new competitor, exciting, that really loves to fight and really enjoys hurting people, and will finally get to unleash all the violence that he wants to unleash on people where he's had to hold back in professional wrestling.
I love it. I look forward to it. I'll talk to Jackson Wink, and a big heavyweight, high-level guy from Canada I think would be very well received, and I think you're going to have a great career. I'll be cheering for you. Let's stay in close touch.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on, and we definitely will keep in touch. Everyone, follow me and cheer for me when I get in there, because I'm going to definitely knock some people out.
Absolutely. We'll be behind you 100%, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great one, Hannibal. Take care, brother. All right, that was Devon Hannibal Nicholson. Very promising, Dr. Adam Rorter, don't you think, with his wrestling credentials? I think he's 35 years old, and at a heavyweight, that really is prime. That is prime time. I think Stipe was like 38, and DC is about to turn 40, and Lesnar's 41. So this guy is young compared to those guys, and I think definitely with his credentials, I think he's in good health, and I think he can do some damage, and I think there'd be a lot of backing for a big Canadian MMA heavyweight. Not a lot seen before.
Definitely. It sounds like he's going to be an exciting fighter, and he has all these followers. I mean, there's a reason for it. So,
yes.
He's an exciting person, and can definitely get a draw, obviously.
Yep.
I mean, you can just tell from a mile away when he starts spouting off those numbers.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be checking out Hannibal TV. It's not something I had heard of before tonight, actually. Well, I guess this week when you told me that Hannibal was coming on.
Yeah. Definitely. I've heard of it, though, myself, and I've heard it's an amazing site, amazing podcast, amazing broadcasting, and he's a really unique and good guy and would be a definite asset to our MMA community. So I think we're about 2 minutes away from wanting to bring on our next our next guest. All right. We have communication, Frank Trigg, Willard Ford. Are you gentlemen there, and can you hear me?
Hello?
Excellent. And so we're hearing and we're seeing Frank Trigg and Willard Ford. Are you guys hearing us?
Hold on. It might be me. Hold on.
No problem.
Yep. Hold on. I got to fix this. Sorry.
No problem.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Frank, can you hear me?
Here we go. Yep, got you now. Sorry about that. I had the wrong...
No problem.
Set up.
No problem at all. Okay, and so there we go. We got both Frank Trigg and Willard Ford here. Want to give a great introduction. You guys know the UFC Hall of Famer, legend, great fighter, great commentator, great referee, coach, and just overall incredibly respected man in our sport of MMA. Mr. Frank Trigg. With him is a very successful gym owner and businessman, someone really supporting MMA here in Southern California, in Mr. Willard Ford. Want to welcome both of you gentlemen to the MMA Power Hour.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Hello.
Absolutely. Very welcome. So, you guys, anyone who wants to jump in with some answers here, feel free. But I'm really excited to talk about your Strong Sports Gym. This is a gym that Judo Gene LaBelle endorses and is a contributor and supporter of. And Gene is a friend of mine. Anything that Gene endorses, pretty much everyone's going to respect. And also with Frank Trigg there and Willard, your great reputation as well. Tell us about the Strong Sports Gym and what makes it unique, because it's got some just amazing features, and it's kind of like an entity in and of itself, different than any other gym out there. So let us know what's going on at Strong Sports Gym and what makes it unique.
I think we're the last gym left in Central City, boxing gym anyway, and we started as an MMA gym as an offshoot of another gym about 10 years ago, and we just relocated to the new Mission Junction area, which is right outside of Chinatown. So we're actually in the Central City area. Everybody else seems to have been priced out. So we've done a sort of a well, I guess we're the last men standing really in the area, and the program itself is organized more like a mini Olympic training center than a typical MMA gym or boxing gym. So we have distinct programs that are in strength and conditioning, skills development, in wrestling, boxing, and in MMA. And then we have specialists who offer services. We have dietitian, sports performance coaches, we have sports physiologist, manual therapist. All of them are on staff and providing services to the membership. So we try to treat everyone as if they're a pro athlete, but they can access these services on an ad hoc basis, and also, I guess, time and desire permitting.
Right. I really like that concept, and Frank, I'll definitely let you chime in here in a second, but I really like that concept because I know that a lot of people of all ages, actors, musicians, entertainers, and people that are not fighters look at the shape that fighters are in and how fighters can defend themselves, and sometimes say, where can I go and train at a gym where I can have services like this? And usually the answer is nowhere. Usually the answer is you just try to show up at a professional MMA gym and say, can I train alongside this top 10 fighter? And they say, no, you can't. And you pretty much then are looking around saying, where can I possibly go where I can get the same sort of services that fighters get, so that I could possibly get my body on that same level and some amazing fighting skills. And I think this place is really an anomaly in that it's the only place that I've heard of that really offers that. What's your thoughts on that, Frank?
Well, the biggest thing is that it's made for the everyman. And what you have right now is you have this big push of like CrossFit. And everyone looks at these CrossFit athletes and goes, oh, look how great this guy looks. And the reality of it is that the CrossFit competitors that win are the ones that got hurt the least amount while they were training. Yeah. They don't have any real science behind it, and the ones that take the most amount of steroids. And that's really what happens in CrossFit. Where at our gym, you can actually get a physique that's work. It's functional fitness, functional movement, nutrition, And you can actually walk in here, and if you have the time and, of course, the money, you're able to build a program around to go, hey, I need to lose 25 pounds. I have a wedding to get ready for. But in the meantime, that you're going to lose this weight, but you're also going to do it scientifically based, but you're also going to figure out if there's any light injuries. We have a physical therapist right here who's going to take care of you. But then we also have a situation where you're learning real martial arts. You're learning how to wrestle, you're learning how to grapple, you're learning how to box for real, and things that work for real. So you're not just walking out and learning how to do a bunch of push-ups. So it's I forget the actor that said it. I'm not learning how to be the best at exercising. I'm actually learning how to be the best at something. And this is what Strong Sports does, is that, you know, our clientele range from doctors, lawyers, New York Times best-selling authors. These are regular folks. These aren't athletes that are coming in here.
Right.
And so when they walk in here, they're like at first a little intimidated because they assume it's going to be an athlete, you know, like a super high-level athlete teaching the class. It's going to be nothing but athletes in the class. And they realize, well, no, this is like my peer group is in here with me.
Nice.
So it's very casual from the mindset of you're not coming here trying to do damage. You're not sparring every day. Yeah, as a matter of fact, how many classes do you have to take before you can actually spar in one of our classes?
Most of the people are, in the grappling courses, they're going to do some very limited sparring pretty early on, but in the boxing, we really work them up over a period of about 6 months before they're going to do anything very active in the ring itself.
Good.
So the whole idea is to take regular people and teach them real skills, as opposed to look for that one-off athlete who can prop your gym up and sort of follow their career around and try to make a name for ourselves. In a market like Los Angeles, in the central city, that's a very unsustainable model.
Yeah.
You lose that athlete, he goes to a new camp, gets in a fight with someone, that guy's gone, and all of a sudden your whole program goes out the door. And we set it up from the ground floor to be this one-stop shop so we don't lose people. So we have probably, out of the first 10 students we probably have 6 of them left 10 years on. We've had people have been with us the whole 10 years, 7 years, 6 years. And when people move here and they start the program and they look that they can see that people are really taking care of them, the difference is immediately apparent.
Right.
We've heard horror stories of people going to other gyms and them getting thrashed or getting spoken down to or whatever. We just don't tolerate any of that stuff. It's a very professional, good-natured place that people can come to train.
I like
Not
it.
to say there isn't serious training here. There is, but
It's just got that martial arts respect and feel to it, and that's very important to me. Everyone that watches my show knows that, having been pretty close to a lifelong martial artist myself, and I know that's important to Frank Trigg also, the respect, and it sounds like you guys are both enforcing that, and that's important. And Frank, you are personally there, I would imagine, when your schedule permits, and someone could actually train under your guidance. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, I just got done teaching my my Wednesday night wrestling class. Well, it's not mine, actually. I'm actually covering for another coach who's busy with Beat the Streets in Yaru, Washington, who we wrestled on U.S. teams together. And then he's out here and teaching classes on Wednesdays, and I usually cover classes Mondays and Saturdays. But like the last Saturday, I was in Vegas for the fights. This next Saturday, I'm on the water sailing, and the Saturday after that, I'm in Japan for Rising. So I'm going to miss a couple of Saturdays in a row, but usually I'm here 2 to 3 nights a week teaching. And then I'm here other times. Willard's actually my endurance coach, and so when I cycle, I ride with him 2 or 3 times a week as well. So it's like it's this ongoing process where everything kind of morphs. I got too old to run. Knee started hurting, ankle started hurting. I couldn't do it anymore. He's like, get a bike, let's start riding.
Nice.
I'm like, I can't do this, man. This is going to be horrible. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And he built me up over 6 months. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to do a 100-mile ride the first day. It was impossible. But he built me up, told me how to do things on my own, showed me how to do the right way. And then all of a sudden now, years later, I'm still sticking with it. And it's weird, but that's the concept for Strong Sports. Like he said, we have 6 of our original 10 athletes still here, and those 4 have moved. It's not like they left us. They moved to different locations,
right?
So they couldn't come here anymore because it's too far away. The other 6 are still here because we didn't beat them up when they first walked in. We didn't give them a bad taste in their mouth when they first walked in.
Right.
They felt comfortable, and when it was time for them to start sparring, they were comfortable. And they were okay with it. It wasn't like, oh, I can't spar, and they're going to panic and fall apart. They were like, no, I'm okay with this. I've been taught enough. I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And they kind of had a rhythm and a pattern to it.
Excellent. And that's very important because we know there are still those gyms that when the new guy shows up, whether it's the teacher or the guys training there, I'll figure any new guy comes up here and we're going to smoke them and beat their ass so badly that maybe they'll want to come train here so they can get us back. But I just don't think that really works nowadays, especially for the
that happens to me still when I travel, and that's why I don't like going to gyms when I travel. My first thing I tell them is like, look, guys, I am not training. I am not in a training mode. I'm in a protect my family mode.
Right.
It's a different kind of mode. Right. I'm not young anymore. I'm old, and I have injuries and shit. So don't try to go hard with me. But believe me, if you go hard with me, I'll go as hard as you want to.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna smash you.
Yes.
Just to prove a point. But I don't want to have to do that today. So just not do it.
Right.
And a lot of gyms I go into, I'm like, and this is, and I'm a guy that's been in the sport for a long time.
Absolutely.
It still happens to me. Can you imagine what they do with somebody that's never done it before?
Yeah, really.
They're gonna green light that guy and beat him up, and that's not what should be done.
No, it really shouldn't. And I like the fact that you have a gym over there that has that good and respectful attitude. And so for people watching, it really is going to be a place to go. And Willard, it seems like you do have several years then under your belt with what Frank just said, you helping him with conditioning, and I wasn't aware of that. How long have you been focusing on cross training or training for athletic, being an athlete or combat sports, and what's your background on that and your involvement?
I was an endurance athlete for since I was about 14. I was a bicycle racer, and we would work with coaches and sports physiologists who would give us programming based on test results. So we would go get a series of a battery of tests, and then they would develop a training plan based on that battery of tests. And it was a very sort of linear, logical progression to it. And when I went to the MMA gyms, I had been involved in martial arts as well, but when I had gone to most of the MMA and martial arts gyms, I found that, and the boxing gyms, that the coaches were operating on some very arcane ideas and were really just hurting their charges. So one of the things that we wanted to do here is we wanted to have a sensible and progressive and science-based conditioning program and strength program where people weren't over-developing certain aspects, but they also weren't ignoring certain aspects as well. Everybody can benefit from sort of higher endurance skills. Everyone can benefit for being stronger, but if you get heavier or you get fatter, then you're going to go up a weight category and you're going to be too small. So this idea that the training is sort of done haphazardly, and then people they put on a certain amount of muscle, who knows how much they're going to put on, and then they're going to lose it for their fight. That's a very sort of old-fashioned way of doing things.
Yeah.
You should really look at what the time you have, what the load's going to be, how to peak for an event, and a lot of that is derived from endurance athletics.
Absolutely.
And you look at MMA right now, look at like Colby Covington, he makes it a point not to be any heavier than 185. When he walks in the room, he makes it a point to be no heavier than 185.
Yep.
So during training camp, he loses 5 pounds. He's only going to dehydrate 10 pounds.
Yep.
He's like, I ate dinner the night before, and then I make weight the next day. Like I don't suffer. Nice. And you get guys like right now, like Tyron Woodley, who also comes from a wrestling background. He's an amazing wrestler in Missouri himself, but now he makes himself so big that he has a hard time making weight and he falls apart. So you look at Colby versus Dos Anjos. The reason why Colby won is because he didn't cut as much weight. Dos Anjos came up from 55 and didn't cut that much weight, but Colby was a bigger guy all the time. So this is the game that's being played, much more scientific. The first real person ever made to do that was George St. Pierre. He got very scientific about how he did stuff. He didn't get any bigger than 185, and he's the best champ that the welterweight division's ever had. Yep. And this is kind of where Colby is going, and this is what we're trying to introduce to everybody in the central city for Los Angeles, is that we're trying to show them that anybody can do this. It's not made just for the professional athlete. It's cost effective, it's available, and it's convenient. And that's the thing that you have to make it for the doctors and the lawyers and the accountants and the general Joes that want to come in and go to work. You have to make it these 3 things, otherwise they're not going to show up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're the only small gym that has a parking lot.
I like that. I like that. You're right. Out here in LA, nobody has a parking lot. Well, you guys also have other services like some of the top MMA training camps have. I don't know if you have a nutritionist or touch on that as well, but let us know, from whether it's physical therapist or exercise physiologists or nutritionists, let us know some of the other people that are there offering services to someone that would come join the Strong Sports Gym. And then also tell us a little bit about the Strong Sports Academy.
Well, the first things that we did is we assembled coaches in each of the service areas or each of the skill sets. So we have a coach who works with basketball players, we have a coach who works with wrestlers, we have a coach who works for MMA, and a head coach that works for boxing. So it's not built around one personality. So each of these separate programs is not only managed separately, it's also resourced separately.
Yep.
And then there's some cross-pollination. We came out of a gym that specialized in wrestling-based MMA, and two of the original coaches, Frank and Coach Mo here, they were in the fold at that gym for years, and we really figured out that central space, which was the commonalities or reconnecting wrestling and boxing. And then the submissions and the kickboxing are really peripheral to that. It's the glue that binds our technical program is the wrestling and the boxing. But like I said, we also have basketball and baseball and other types of sports athletes that we're working with.
Nice.
So the head coaches are Yaru Washington. He runs Beat the Streets and is a high-level practitioner, national team member, Division I coach. Frank, of course, is sort of goes without mention.
Legend.
We have Coach Mo's been coaching for 30 years, people in boxing.
Mm-hmm.
We have Jake Lee, who is our sports physiologist and our conditioning head coach. We have Robert Wilhite, who does all the manual therapy. He's amazing. I mean, he's working with people here 3 days a week, full time.
Mm-hmm.
We have Cornell Jenkins, who's a specialist for basketball skills development.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of Marinovich's main guys.
Awesome.
Who else do we have?
You've got Vladimir Matyshenko, I think, right? You got Vlad?
Yeah, Vladimir was our head MMA coach for a while. He went on break for a while, and now he's coming back doing privates here again.
Nice.
But he was with Frank and me for a long time.
Hey.
When you look at the people, I mean, most of the coaches here have known each other, I mean, by degrees of separation, but we have all been working together in some capacity for probably close to 25, almost 30 years, which is totally unheard of. We're not just hiring guys off the street, or you got some random jiu-jitsu coach and they got some random nutritionist. These are people who have all been working together in the same fold with the same methodology for a long time. And that really benefits the regular man who comes in.
For sure. I'm sure you probably have actors and musicians and people coming in as well to get in shape for films, or if they're not, it sounds like they really should be.
We have a few of them. We're pretty discreet about doing that. They train during the off hours.
Yep.
We got some pretty big names from basketball in here. We've had some really big names in fighting, boxing and wrestling. We're fairly, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You can do Google searches and stuff like that. But
but the thing is that that's not our main piece, because we all know anyone that's ever run a gym realizes that the professional athlete doesn't pay a damn. They don't make enough money. It's just not going to fall apart. And like Will said earlier, from an MMA standpoint, it's even worse. Like there's even less money to be made. So it's not the main focus. It's not that high level clientele. But the problem is that when you're good, they keep showing up. Yeah. And the high level clientele keeps showing up, and they tell their friends. And of course, when you see them on a road show, or you see them on a film, then all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, they're great! What happened? Oh, this is who I trained with." Yep. And then it just keeps spiraling. So originally, I think Will kind of shut it down a little bit. We didn't want that kind of clientele to begin with at all, and it just kind of happened organically.
I mean, especially professional fighters, if you're looking at the cost benefit of it, it's not worth it unless you have like one of the big camps and you have a lot of fighters doing that. Yeah. But it becomes a totally different business model.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking about money, this is a high-level gym with tremendous amount of professional services and elite level sports services available. So for people that can afford that, I'm sure you guys are reasonable. But for people that can't, women, single mothers, children, I believe you have the Strong Sports Gym Academy and some scholarship options, and I believe also you're kind of about to do like a kind of a big grand opening or something. Let us know about when this is going to be, and maybe a little bit about the Strong Sports Academy and possibility of scholarships and what you're doing for children and like single moms and people that really need help.
Well, we have discounts that are applied to anybody who's a first responder, police, fire, EMT, nurses. Awesome. We have a discount that's applied to anyone who's a social worker, a teacher, children under 18 years old. These discounts are pretty heavy. We want to make sure that we have a good representation of the people who can take advantage of our services, and we can be a service to them. And they add a lot of, a lot of interest to the gym. On the Strong Sports Academy side, we actually we started with some youth boxing programs, and we shifted focus over to youth scholarships. So today, for instance, a young man came to us and said he wanted to train, but he didn't have money. The membership actually contributes their tuition and then we make sure that we're covered for all the costs to support them. So if they want to box in the amateurs, or if they want to do some MMA stuff, all that stuff is taken care of through the Strong Sports Academy.
That's very cool. And what are the hours over there? What's the address, and what's the best way for people to go down there and get a consultation and possibly join?
Well, we're open 6 in the morning until 9:30 at night, Monday through Thursday. 6 in the morning till 6 and 8 on Friday, and then Saturday we're open 7 to 4, and we're opening up Sunday in another week or so. Then we're going to fill out the hours a little bit. People can come down here all the time, train during the day. It's not like some of those academies, they're just open for classes. We have private lessons, membership packages, or like individual classes. You can get private lessons or access any of those supplementary services, including like all the sports nutrition and stuff like that. We also have a really nice pro shop, so you can get whatever you need to get. We have some nice equipment there. The best way to get in touch is either to email us at info@strongsportsgym.com or give us a call at 310-800-3999. Or alternately, you can just go online to strongsportsgym.com and you can send us an email from there. We're always here. We got a nice front desk. We'll take care of you.
Absolutely. Sounds like an amazing place. Anything you want to add, Frank, in your time there and how long you've been involved with Strong Sports, and you know, what you'd recommend if people were looking for a gym and wanted to do something better than they'd been doing just going to an LA Fitness or a 24-hour fitness or whatever?
Well, like we said earlier, the biggest difference is that when it take you can be literally coming off the couch, haven't worked out in 25 years, life gets in the way, and you weren't really that athletic when you were younger, and gets you in shape and gets you into a sense of how to eat right, how to train right, how not to get injured, how, you know, everything that you need to have happen. So if we can take that person off the couch and make that happen for them, we can take anybody all the way up to the professional athlete to make them better. And like we were talking earlier with Cornell, there's a lot of professional basketball players are with him to get ready for the season. A lot of kids are coming with him to get ready for the tryouts too. And so there's a lot of rookie ball leagues, and a lot of people like that that come through here. And it's a big testament to the style of training that we do here when you have athletes who are like, I'm about to make, a $50 million contract,
right,
but I'm coming here to Strong Sports to go train. Like, this is a gym in downtown. This is kind of the area. And that's the biggest thing. I've been with Strong Sports since, we're in that little ratty place over there. 2008. So 10 years I've been with Strong Sports. So
nice.
It's been my gym. And even when I was off living in Hawaii, every time I'd come in, I'd come teach classes. Whenever I'd come back to LA, I'd come in and teach class whenever I could. So that was one of the things I always try to do, because the gym does mean so much to me. And it is a great place. To be honest with you, when I was competing, I wish I had this gym, because I would have been a much better athlete.
Yeah.
I would have learned how to take a Wednesday off. I would have learned how to take a Friday off when I was hurt, or go do something else. I would have done more endurance training, which means my fights would have been better than later rounds when I got the championship rounds.
Yeah.
But now everyone kind of does it, and it's kind of, and now they try to price themselves out of it, where no one, unless you're a professional fighter, can afford it, and we try to make it so that anybody can afford it.
I like that, and that's great. And one of the things that Willard told me is that the other gyms around the world, especially fitness gyms, hope that people sign up and never set foot into the gym, so they can collect their $30 or $60 or $80 a month or whatever, and they don't have a second of wear and tear on their carpet. You guys really want someone, if they sign up, to come and take advantage of all you have, and it really seems like you care more than just about someone's monthly membership fees.
Yeah, if you sign up and don't come to class, we start calling you.
I love it.
Start checking up on you. Like, where are you? Like, why are you here? Like, why'd you give us your money? It doesn't make any sense to be paying us, And we do, and it's really strange. I'm sure there's a client that I don't know about that pays for privates and doesn't take any classes.
Yep.
But the majority of people that I do privates with are people that are in my class on a regular basis, and they're not gonna be it's not gonna be 4 days a week they're doing privates. They'll hit me up like once a month, like, hey, can you come and show me this one thing that you did in class? I didn't really get it.
Yep.
Okay, let's do this private and then get it out of the way, and then next class they've got it down, and this is kind of what we do. And it's not like we really do care. We really do want you in class if you're part of the gym. We want you to be a part of it.
That's awesome, and I know you feel the same way, Willard. And any thoughts that you have that makes Strong Sports Gym special, and anything that's going on as far as activities with like a grand opening or anything, let us know.
Oh, we had our grand opening already, so we kind of maybe we crossed signals there.
No problem.
But another aspect of it is that we actually do a lot of social events, go to the fights, that sort of stuff, and which is really nice. And everyone says they have a community at their gym, but a lot of that is just sort of marketing hyperbole.
Yeah.
We really do have a place, and we have about 150 members.
Nice.
And I would say 80% of them are here all the time.
That's awesome. Like a big family.
Yeah, it's just a very, very nice environment. It's very, super clean, well appointed. It's well organized. It's just like you just don't, and I'm not bragging about me. I lean on my coaches quite a bit and my partner. So it's a whole team effort to provide this, but we just never sort of go to sleep on it. So
That's awesome.
I feel like when I go to other gyms, when I see how they're failing, that's informed us in how we behave and how we organize our gym, and we just are not going to let that happen.
I like that, and it sounds like an amazing place. In the last couple of minutes I have, you guys, I would be remiss if I didn't ask Frank Trigg some opinions for our fans. Frank Trigg, what do you think? DC and Stipe, did that fight unfold the way you thought it would? And what do you make of what you saw?
It's exactly the way the fight. I predicted that's how the fight was going to go. The only way Stipe can win is to keep DC on the outside, but DC's a wrestler. He's going to get inside. Stipe's a wrestler as well.
Yeah.
The difference being that in most fights, you go, oh, if he can keep him on the outside, he'll win. If he gets on the inside, he'll win.
Yeah.
The difference in this fight was if Stipe can keep him on the outside, he'll win. If DC gets on the inside, anybody can win.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And what happened was that DC just made it more of a wrestling match and more of a dirty boxing match. And he, instead of doing a traditional overhook around the arm, he hugged his head. And then whenever Stipe wanted to get a half step back, which was what we knew, that anybody that knows the sport knew that Steve was going to try to do every time that DC touched him. He's always going to try and take a half step back, and every time he took the half step back, DC would throw an uppercut.
Yeah.
And DC, he has a 40-year-old dad bod.
Yep.
Yep. He looked funny, and he pushed his stomach out when he's doing the weigh-in to make himself look fatter. Yeah. But the reality of it is that he hits like a truck.
Yeah.
And he is an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
And because of that, when he got inside, he was able to hit him. And everyone's talking about shouldn't Stipe have the immediate rematch, but now that Brock Lesnar's in there, is that going to be a whole different thing or whatever?
Yeah. What do you think?
I've never been a big fan of the immediate rematches. I've always thought if you lose to the champ, you don't get an automatic immediate rematch.
Right.
You then have to go down, you get dropped down a couple of points, and you got to fight your way back up to the top. If you fight your way back up, you get another title fight.
Yeah. So
What
Brock
I don't agree with is Brock Lesnar stepping in, all of a sudden leapfrogging everybody after a long suspension, after another failed drug test, jumping in and being able to fight DC in January.
Yeah.
But believe me, DC, also is like not for it, but he knows the money fight. He's gonna take it because it's gonna be a lot of money. He'll retire after he beats Lesnar.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think Brock stands much of a chance in that fight unless they were to tell him that USADA was not gonna look at him at all, and he could take whatever he wants, right? But yeah, I think that's definitely a DC fight. Also, you having been over Hawaii for many years, is Max Holloway okay? I mean, I'm sure there's only so much you might know or want to say on that, but a lot of us are concerned about him with concussion symptoms. It's just a hard weight cut, but he's a young guy who I think is healthy and strong. You think we're going to be seeing him soon, or do you think there's any problem?
Well, I mean, define soon. There's, GSP fought once a year, and everyone's like, that's enough to see GSP.
Yeah.
But then as it revolves, people want to see their champs fight more.
Yeah.
If this trauma had happened to Max 3 or 5 years ago, he'd probably never see him again.
Right.
But because this trauma has happened now that with the NFL doing all the concussion therapy training and studies, hockey jumped on board, MMA has jumped on board, like all these people now are doing all these concussion and traumatic brain injury therapies, that you're seeing guys like Matt Hughes who should never have recovered as much as he has because the therapy is new and up to date and much technically more sound, that he's back as good as he is. Now, is he 100%? No.
Right.
But he got hit by a train.
Yeah.
If you hit me with a train, I'd be dead. That's just how that works. So Matt has come back, and he looks great, and he's doing a lot better. Every time I see him, he's doing way better.
Yeah.
We're going to see Max again. How soon? I don't know, but he's definitely going to be back. And the talk has always been he cannot be at 45 forever. He's going to have to move up to 55.
Yeah.
And the question is, will that have to happen now? And it might have to happen now because of the way that the new brain trauma protocol goes, that he might have to not be able to cut as much weight because that is one of the problems that hurts your head is cutting too much weight. So he might have to go up, but I don't know. I mean, nobody knows. Yeah. And only ones that know that are going to be Max, Rylan, and Brian. Yeah. Those are the only 3 people going to figure it out, and they'll let the rest of us know when the time is right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Max is an amazing champion, and I just, can't wait to see him back in action when he's healthy, and I'm sure he will be soon. Any opinion on that Ngannou versus Derek Lewis fight? Was that the biggest stinker of any heavyweight fight in history since Dan Severn went against Ken Shamrock in the rematch in my home state of Detroit about 20 years ago?
So, Jens Pulver versus Macau, I think. was the lowest amount of landed punches per round. 20 or lowest amount of punches landed in a 3-round fight at 22. Nagano and Lewis beat that with 23 landed punches total.
Amazing.
So they failed at failing.
Yeah.
They couldn't even be the worst fight ever.
Right,
So
second
bad.
worst. Yeah.
So it was my first time in T-Mobile. A friend of mine bought me tickets so that my wife and I could go. It was sold out, and it was like a weird situation. And then we got invited up to the where were we, hon? To the VIP Jack Daniels Lounge in T-Mobile, and the fight was so bad that they were doing a wave around the arena.
Yep.
I missed it. I totally missed it because the fight sucked so bad. I just started a conversation with Forrest Griffin, and Forrest and I were off in the corner talking. But
Yeah.
I stopped watching the fight after the middle of the.
Yeah.
Actually, at the beginning of the second round,
Yeah.
I gave it 30 seconds. I stopped watching. I didn't care anymore.
Now,
it was that bad.
right now, with you being an experienced MMA referee, and I know you wouldn't criticize Herb Dean because he did try to get them to fight. Should there have been a second attempt by Herb? Do you think, saying, "Look, I'm gonna disqualify both of you"? I mean, is there anything else Herb could have said, or is that just not part of the referee curriculum?
Well, I mean, it could be part of the referee curriculum. The problem is no one was fleeing. No one was stepping back. Both guys were staying there, and they were throwing punches at the same rate from the first round to the third round. You can't now hit them harder in the third round because they're doing less.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're doing more, or
Yeah.
they're doing the same amount. They're only going to penalize them if they're doing less, and they weren't doing less.
Yeah.
So you couldn't. And Herb did the best job. And believe me, I've been in fights where I'm like, guys, you are embarrassing us. I've gone to the corners.
Yeah.
And be like, you are embarrassing us. You got to do more, and you got to do more in between rounds.
Yeah.
And they just don't do any more. They just don't. And you cannot make a good fight out of a bad fight.
No.
There's nothing you do about it as a referee. And remember, the referees are impartial.
Yeah.
We're just in there for fighter safety.
Yep.
And we really can't make anything out of it. If there was a real problem, you have your referee second. The referee that does
Outside
the
the
pat down
cage.
before you get in the cage, that checks everything. He's your second referee. He's also watching the fight, paying attention to the fight. He can call you over between rounds and go, look, man, you might want to call it off. You might want to do something.
Right.
Nothing like that ever happened. And so Herb did the best job he could do with what he had.
Yeah.
And he had a shit bag of a fight, and that's what he had to deal with.
It makes sense, and that was supposed to be one of the most explosive fights ever. I think one of the issues is in the UFC, people don't want to lose one fight because some people are being cut from the contract with one loss. And I think that might be one of the problems with the UFC business model. What do you think?
Colin, a guy got kicked off for beating CM Punk. What's his name? Jackson beat CM Punk.
For winning.
And got fired.
And got cut from the contract.
He won and got fired. So losing a shitty fight, you still can get beat.
Yeah.
And you can win a shitty fight and still get kicked out.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And it's up to the, and to be honest with you, the UFC cut both those guys. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But they don't have much of a heavyweight division, so what are they going to do?
Yeah, very true.
They got to keep them. They got to keep them.
Speaking about that, we had a guest on earlier who I think you might remember from TNA Wrestling. You know Devon Hannibal Nicholson?
Of course, yeah.
He is looking to get into MMA, and I'm excited. I think that guy, speaking about heavyweights, how about a big Canadian heavyweight with wrestling skills? I think he could be a force.
Well, I used to train Jack Swagger when he was a kid in Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
And then he went on pro wrestling fame, and I lost contact with him, and I was at a Bellator reffing, like maybe 2 months ago, and all of a sudden somebody's yelling, Trigg. I look around, it's like big gargantuan white dude. I'm like, Swagger, what are you doing here? He's
nice.
like, I'm doing MMA now. I'm in MMA. I'm like, it's about time. Some of these guys are making the crossover. It's about time. So, that is going to be awesome to have a huge, big-ass Canadian heavyweight that can move like a middleweight, but hits like a truck. And that's what we need. And we need some, but you got to be careful. You can't push him like a CM Punk and put him in front of everybody where he's going to fall apart.
Right.
And also, you can't coddle him. We have like a Brock Lesnar where he doesn't deserve to be in the title fight, but obviously he's in a title fight.
Yeah.
You've got to build him up. You got to take your time, make sure it's done correct.
Yeah, and I think he really has a great attitude about that. He's done some work at TriStar, and I know that's a possibility for him. He actually has said he'd love to train over at Jackson Wink over in New Mexico, and we were friends with them there. So I think he's looking at some great places and does seem to have a really good attitude. Seems like a cool guy, fun personality, but dead serious about taking MMA seriously and making a big effort. So I think that should be a lot of fun and a lot of excitement coming from him. I think by a year from now, maybe he'll have a couple big wins under his belt. So that'll be fun. Well, in the last couple minutes we have you guys, Frank and Willard, go ahead and shout out again the address of Strong Sports, the best way to contact either of you if someone someone maybe wanted to make a transition of consulting with one of you guys briefly first before going down there, the best way, the address, and the best way for them to find out more information perhaps about rates and programs and like that.
We're at 1318 North Spring Street. Enter on Elmira Street. We're right by the Chinatown station for the train. We're right by the plexus of all the freeways, the 110, the 5. All the areas come right through where we are, the 134, 101. This is just it's the central exits off at Alameda. If you get off at Broadway, any of those places, you'll come right into here. We have a nice big parking lot. We're right by the new Los Angeles State Historic Park, right behind the old Nick's Cafe across the street from the Highland Park Brewery. We have about 64 parking spaces, and we have plenty of room for everybody. If you want to get in touch, you can get us at www.strongsportsgym.com or hit us up by email at info@strongsportsgym or call 310-800-3999.
Sounds great. And then that's if you have some money to join a high-level place like this, or if you feel like you want a scholarship, there's possibilities there as well, and you can check that out. And really look forward to hearing more great success for Strong Sports Gym. Frank Trigg, any final thoughts?
None. No, whatsoever. Thanks for having us. I really appreciate it, Colin. It was a great interview.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. My pleasure as always, Frank, talking to you. Pleasure meeting you and having you on the first time. Willard Ford, look forward to great things from Strong Sports Gym. Keep up the great work, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a great night. And we thank you so much for your support. Any likes, shares, everything, tremendously, tremendously appreciated. Thanks so much, guys, for being with us. We look forward to coming at you with a great show next Wednesday, guest to be announced. And for Dr. Adam Rorta and the MMA Power, this is Colin Crandall. And for tonight, I'm tapping out.
Well, I'm still here.
We're still here. And for tonight, I'm tapping out.
I transitioned to the wrong one. Hey.
Peace.